Well, I'd like to introduce to you our guides in this journey that we'll be taking together. At the far right of the stage is a fourth-generation Mississippi family farmer, Ben Burkette. Thank you. There is a full bio on Ben in your program. He is the president of the National Family Farm Coalition. He really helped navigate me through rural America. And he told me, and not in the same language to slow the fork down, but I remember when we were working with the Greater New Orleans Foundation, and he said, God, they want to do it right now, and things work a little more slowly in rural Mississippi and rural Louisiana, and we've got to respect that. We've got to respect the dignity with whom we work. And Ben took that risk almost 20 years ago with this crazy idea that farmers should actually come to New Orleans and sell the fruits of their labor. And the look we got often was like asking them to come to Baghdad or Beirut. The fear of the city, the lack of familiarity. And everywhere I went, people said, well, have you talked to Ben Burkette? Ben's the one you got to talk to. And when I finally found Ben, he said, yeah, I've been looking for you for a few years. Because the connection between urban and rural had broken down. And I think it is now stronger today than probably in a generation. So, and then to my immediate left, and your, sitting right here, is Ted Quandt, who's the executive director of the Toomey Center for Peace Through Justice at Loyola University, an extraordinary institution that links community know-how with university resources, and really brings as much into academia and the ivory tower as the ivory tower shares with the community. And Ted has this extraordinary ability to weave his way in and out of different worlds and make people feel safe and navigate through very, very difficult challenges. And I think you'll see in his bio the kind of complex, confrontational, organizational settings where Ted and his partner, Michael Kane, who's here, and I'm sure Michael, unless he's at the gym, is here, because that's usually where I'd run into Michael, was in the park or in the gym when he's thinking through the next training. But Ted, many, many years ago, when I started the garden in my neighborhood, and I saw there was an opportunity to link with rural and with farmers, and Ted and I pitched it to the president of the university that we want to do this crazy thing, is have a farmer's market based out of a university. And for Ted, this was just a continuation of the important work that he's done in building community all over the South. And I've learned everything from these two about food and urban and rural and the dignity of ordinary people defining their future. And I'm hoping that you can start taking us on that journey and set the tone for work we'll continue today and tomorrow together. So, Ted Quandt and Ben Burkette. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Richard, and thank all of you all coming to our beautiful city and bringing all the wonderfulness that you're bringing. I met Ben quite a few years ago. But just in connecting, since we've been here, realize our connections go back a lot further, back into the 70s, and when I was doing some organizing in Mississippi, and we were in some of the same places and so forth. So it's been a pleasure. I want to thank Richard and Slow Food for inviting me to have this great opportunity to talk to Ben and share with you his life and wisdom and opportunity for us. I heard Carlos say, the more we share, the more we grow. And I think Ben's life is an example of that. I saw the film unlikely journey of a small farmer. And it is an unlikely journey. Ben comes from 125 years of history of farming. And his great-grandfather, great-great, homesteaded the land, and Ben has been on it since. And it's led him from a small farmer to national, international prominence as a leader and advocate for affordable, quality food for all people, sustainable development. From Petal, Mississippi, and Indian Springs Co-op to the United Nations, where he spoke and advocated. And travels all over the world, bringing knowledge and taking knowledge. And I heard one of the persons said, you know, Uncle Ben come back from these trips, and he says, let me tell you what I learned. Let me tell you what we can do with what I learned. And he shares it right away. So Ben, I wanna say I saw the video. Your life story is awesome. A story of an individual and his community rooted in history. I would like to begin this interview with what this history of your family in 125 years, 100 years on a farm means to you.
I'd like to say thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to be here and my good friend Richard and Ted to learn more about slow food. I know a little bit about it hearsay they say over the years, but I'm very motivated and moved by what you all are doing. But as Ted said, my family been in farming now for a little over 125 years. My great-grandfather was fortunate enough to receive a homestead from the United States government, 164 acres that was given to him not long after the Civil War in South Mississippi. And this is land that was Native American after the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit, when most of the Indians, all the Indians, but not quite all, moved to Oklahoma, opened up this South Mississippi, which is less than 100 miles from here, for settlement. So I'm often trying to wonder how 20, 25 years after the Civil War, how the African American in this part of Mississippi was able to achieve land ownership, which was very important. And that farm is still in my family today. It grew from 164 acres now, it's 294 acres. And every generation added a few acres to it. My mother and father bought 40 acres in 1938 for $300. And now I doubt $300 would buy a half acre of that 40 acres. But land is very important to any movement. And if the founder of Slow Food Carlos, when he said about the things in Africa, and I had the opportunity to I've been in Africa 29 times, I believe. I lost count after 25. And I always learn things that I can use back and how it relates to what we're doing in this region. It's stated I'm a farmer in Mississippi, but probably 70% of what I produce is sold in this city. So my family have been bringing produce to New Orleans, to the French market for years. And then the French market declined from a market to a tourist trap. That's when the Crescent City market came along. But the whole generation of 4 generations, my daughter will be the 5th generation if she decides to stay in farming. She'd be farming one day and out the next day. But it's been a rewarding life.
One of the things rooted in this history, 125 years, in Mississippi, with all of what Mississippi means historically, right. There came a great migration in the 1960s. There was one before that, but in the 60s there was. And you left home.
I was intending to leave home.
And your daddy got sick and you got called back.
Right.
and you decided to work the farm just for
1 year
1 year, and then you would, move on
to Chicago.
to Chicago. And but you didn't.
I did.
You had a couple of good years, and then you hit a bad year, and then you stayed through the bad years and the struggle, and frankly, facing racial discrimination, the struggle of black farmers, people going bankrupt. You could have gone up north. You stayed and fought. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay. Yeah, I had a finish from a land grant institution with my degree in agriculture, and I decided wasn't no jobs. And everybody in my generation was leaving the South at the time. We were going to Chicago. I don't really know why, but everybody was, so I was gonna go. But my father took to come back and help cotton with the crop, harvest cotton, and I made good money. I like this farming, but I believe I stayed. 3 years later, cotton prices went to almost to nothing. Hurricanes is always a factor in farming here. So I stayed. But in my community, though, there was farmers that always had worked together. So we organized a cooperative, in Spring Farm Association, out of racism, basically. We found that the buyers for watermelon was paying the white farmer one price, and we're paying the black farmers another price. So to keep from accepting that, we said we would organize ourselves. We would buy our own truck, and we would take our own watermelon to Chicago. And that was in the 70s, 75, 78, but the cooperative itself had been organized year before. Out of 8 farmers in that community, Indian Spring, they organized 7 black farmers and 1 white farmer, organized the cooperative, and the cooperative today is still going well. We have 33 members. We have a packing and grading facility. We have several trucks, and we're working, as Richard so stated. The only problem we have in our cooperative now, we don't have that other generation of young farmers coming along. But it grew out of the racism and the pricing that the cooperative was organized. And it's been a struggle to keep going, but it's still going well. And I contribute that because where we are located at, it's a need to work together. No matter what color it is, all the farmers in that little area tend to work together generation after generation after generation.
And I think this also connects to the history and your roots. You made a statement that no one can do this alone. We need each other, and out of this fight against racism and for sovereignty and control of your life, formed a co-op, hooked up with those Chicago clubs that are Mississippi clubs all throughout Chicago.
That's true.
And we're able to do that. And just a little bit more that I think was important, at least I thought it was important, that in Petal, Mississippi, there's a church. And that church is the same church that was also built like 125 years ago.
True.
That his family attended and that he has attended all his life. And there's the Masons,
Large hall.
which is a key fundamental institution. And there was the church, the Masons, and the co-op. Right. Became the 3 institutions that you are a part of, all 3. And the rootedness of how it is a self-help. Richard mentioned the second line social and pleasure clubs. Could you talk to us just a little bit more about how that formed you to who you are, that kind of spirituality that comes out of that kind of relationship?
Most definitely. In the African-American community, the church is the center of everything almost. And in my community, the church, actually on my father's side, the 3 acres that the church had came off of 40 that I own now. And the church wants the other 37 acres today. And the church is the nucleus there. And by the way, my church, this will be our 3rd year with a garden. We started off with a half acre, then it went to an acre. This year the church have a 2-acre garden. And it evolves around young people that get in trouble in the school. They have to do their community service in the garden. The co-op, the Freemason Hall, all this is in the center of this community. This community now have 92 houses, roughly 350 or so people. And there, when I was growing up, it was 40 or 50 family farmers in that community. Now we down to 8 in that community. But it still is based upon land and traditional farming in that area. Most of the farmers have diversified farms, such as my farm. I have some animals, I have trees, I grow vegetables, and I do grow commercially soybean. But those 3 entities right in the center of the community, and the church continue to play a part. We have, for a rural setting, we have a basketball court, we got tennis court, we build a walking track where you can walk around for the community. But I see very few people use it. And it's a half-acre lake that they walk around. I think I'm the only one that'll swim in it. I can't get young people to swim in that lake yet. But that's the center of a community. And then most rural communities in Mississippi and Louisiana are centered around certain entities. And that basically it's those 3. And it brings people together. And like in the slow food, food is something that we all have to have. That's one common denominator. Now, where we get it from, you got 4 or 5 corporations want to control the whole system. But I think it's a local thing. It's a food sovereignty. It's a right given to have high quality, fresh food. And in my community, it's several homes that I know of still cook 3 times a day. So I'm never without food.
Let me, I'm looking at how deep these roots go and how tied it is to this place. And now I'm looking at somebody with this roots who's all over the world. How many times you say you've been to Africa?
29.
29 times to Africa. I saw where you were in China, you were in the Philippines, you were all over the world. You are called upon, and you serve on all these commissions and sought after. So my question is, how did you evolve from Petal, Mississippi, co-op, Masons, the church, to an international leader in affordable, sustainable food kind of food for everybody movement?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I contribute to just being blessed. This is a blessing, honor, a privilege to be able to, growing up in South Mississippi. When I went to Alcorn State University, I didn't know how to turn on a shower. I never seen a shower in my life, you know. So I came from I want to say a sheltered life, but a life of poverty. I wouldn't say that neither, because we always had plenty to eat. Might not have been what we wanted, but we always had plenty to eat. We had a nice home, but to evolve to where I'm at today, and I contributed to this, just a blessing. I just been in the right place at the right time. My good friend, former Secretary Mike Espy, when he ran for the House of Representatives, the first black to be elected to the House of Representatives of the state of Mississippi, I worked along with him in his campaign. Then he became Secretary of Agriculture, and I followed him. I had opportunity to go many places with him, and I just come to be where I'm at today. But I contributed back to, I consider myself now as a farmer, a small farmer. That's all I've ever done. I've been fortunate. I never had a job I never fill out a job application because I always had some vocation, farming. And I try to impress that upon my daughter and I got 4 great nephews that grew up on the farm, very intelligent. They're all about farming, but I don't think they're gonna farm because they went to Mississippi State and one got a degree in electrical engineering, one got a degree in chemical engineering. But I let them know that this land here will always be here. So if you go to New York as an engineer, you can always come back.
Let me ask you this. Like, you don't know how you made that leap, but I'm gonna ask you it this way. Like, what characteristics, values, philosophical approaches do you have that would lend themselves to this kind of success, or that other people who would want to say, how can I be more like Ben? What are the things that he would say if you're talking to your nephew and you're trying to tell your nephew, look, son, let me explain to you a couple of things. What would you say?
Right. I would say you have to be real to yourself. You have to understand that we all in the world is basically one. And no matter where you come from, no matter where you're from, Africa, Europe, or China, whatever, the basis of human being is relationships. How we relate to one another, how we treat one another. I can feel for farmers in India from Mississippi because of the land grabs going on in that area. Even the farmers in China, you know, they evolved in this situation where you just take people's land and do what you want to do with it. You have to feel real in yourself, and I try to impress that upon the people that are helping me. I'm able to be here now because of my great nephews. They in the field farming. Hopefully they come to the market Saturday. I don't know. They came Tuesday, but I depend upon them. So you have to have the trust. You have to have respect. You have to have love for what you want to do, and those that are committed to the ideals like slow food. You have to really. It has to be a part of your life every day. You get up with these ideas. You live with them, and it's not something you just have to think about. You automatically gonna do it. You know, my great nephew, when they were small, I tried to impress upon how to treat everybody and how to be respectful and everything. If you look at this shoe I'm wearing here, this is a honorable shoe in the black community. This is a Stacey Adams Madison. Only people wear these shoes in the black community is elderly men. So my nephew, we walking down the road, I said, you got to respect me, because he said, I said, well, if you live long enough,
You get you some Stacey.
you'll have a pair of shoes like this.
Now, you in Mississippi,
That is true.
and you're a small black community, and you're trying to elevate for yourself and for the rest of your community. And, well, just point blank, Mississippi got pretty racist history. And
We still have
pretty
problems.
racist history. And so I guess where I want to go with this is two things. One, how you navigate to have white allies, your ability to deal with racist people who, I'm not saying they all hard-hearted Ku Klux Klan type racists, but the kind of racist people that don't know that they're racist but are acting in a racist way. And how have you been able to, in all the positions that you've had, galvanize the kind of ally support connections that we're talking about here, and move that thing forward? And I think one story you told me was about the soybeans.
Okay.
The dirty soybeans.
Well, Mississippi race is a contentious issue. Today, we make up 40% of the state population, African American, but all the elected officials on the state level in Mississippi are white males. And I was telling Ted, and this was in the 90s, I was a soybean farmer. My soybean had a broken shield in it, so I cut soybean. And the soybean had a lot of farm matter in it. So I took my soybeans to Loosedale, to Lapperouse Grain buying station. They wasn't bound, which I know the beans had a lot of farm material in, but he had been buying beans like that. So I just took the soybeans back home, elevated them off my truck onto my neighbor's truck, which happened to be a white farmer, which is a member of the co-op. He take the same beans to Loosedale, they bound. So Ted, I was telling Ted that that's an everyday thing you learn to live with. But you learn how to work with it. You don't let that impede you or slow you down to keep moving forward. And I can tell several stories like that over my lifetime, but I always learn something from those type of experiences. You know, you have to learn that that's just a fact of life in Mississippi for the time being. It's changing. It's going to take quite a few more years. But I had opportunity, and Ms. Lynette Gilbert was a part of this, to serve on a commission, 3-year commission on why Mississippi just can't get any better. Why we always number 50 and everything just about. You name it, we number 50.
Only thing Louisiana had going for it was Mississippi.
Mississippi. Louisiana, Mississippi, we battle for number 48, 49, and 50. So as you learn and generations come together, the young people, generation, 2 generations behind me, it's much better. But I'm afraid they're losing that connection to the farm, to sustainability, to how to make a community food solvent, how you can make a given area where you're not dependent upon other exports and imports for your total survival. You know, these companies like Monsanto and Cenex and where I buy my seed from, I've received this vegetable magazine every month. I've been receiving it for 35 years. My daughter, 33 years. I've been receiving this magazine before she was born. Genetic modified vegetables. It was showing where in the future you're going to have potatoes, sweet corn, cabbages, tomatoes, all of it, where we can plant the crop, spray one chemical on it, control all the weeds. Now that technology is already in the soybeans and corn and wheat, but it's slowly being moved. Do we really want that? That's the question we have to decide. But the marketplace will say, if I want to sell yellow and zucchini squash to U.S. Food Service, they're going to say I have to plant this variety. Else they're not going to buy it. So what that put me as a farmer? You know, there's the kind of question we're going to have to deal with in the future. On my farm, I grow a lot of traditional varieties of watermelons and okra. They said the okra seed I plant on my farm can be traced all the way back to a village in West Africa.
Wow.
So now, I'm trying to believe that story. So I'm in a village in South Africa. I mean in West Africa, in Senegal, on the border of Guinea-Bissau and Senegal. And I'm looking at the okra plant there. And I'm looking at the one I plant. And I'm looking at the okra pod. I said, just might be a little truth to this story.
Stay in some more with this, how you navigated the two things, because these big questions, genetically modified food, things that we have in common no matter what race, whatever, they're things but yet we stay divided up and there are certain things about expectations of others and privileges and so forth. With the market umbrella, Crescent City market, because it seemed to me that was an unlikely coalition in a way that some of this cross-racial and, can you talk a little bit about elements of that or struggles within that
Well,
that were able to be dealt
a
with?
beginning there, Crescent City Farmers Market. And when Richard, we decided we were gonna start this market, it was some hesitating about would farmers come. And I knew they would come if we would ever get it started, and we had farmers that came as far as from Alabama. We got some now that's coming from almost from North Mississippi, which is 300 or 400 miles away. And we had African American farmer, we had Vietnamese farmer, we have a Hispanic farmer, but that brought about a community that showed that things could be done. And we have had our ups and downs. I think at the present time on Tuesday market, we're the only African American vendors there now. But that comes and goes with the production, with the crops, and with this. Hurricanes is the big player in this part of the country in farming. It's not a matter of when it's coming, it's a matter of when it's coming. So you have to do everything planting with that, keep the hurricane in the back of your mind. In Mississippi too, we have what's called Mission Mississippi, which would bring together thousands of families. So many black families, so many white families, and they have to go spend 1 year following each other. And this is something been going on now for 20 years. So those types of things. But I think on the real level, in your local communities, how you relate to people in your community, the marketplace to me is still one of the most unrelenting racist places to deal with.
And so, given that, and given that you've also, I guess I want to stay in that space for a minute. Here you are in a space with people that you have to work with. They're human beings. They come from a different perspective and background than you. And you're trying to have equity and inclusion and equality. And there are assumptions of privilege and entitlement that get in the way of that. How have you been able, or what is the experience of where that has not worked, where it has worked? Because many people out here, from what I understand, have tried to make cross-fertilization things with other communities. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And we know, that ain't just like talking about it.
No, it's not.
And it can fall apart real quick. And so I just would like to get some of your wisdom about just that reality and how you navigate it and positives and negatives of that kind of struggle.
Well, it always comes down to one-on-one relationships. You have to build trust, you have to build respect, you have to have a love for what you're doing. And it comes down to the mere fact that, as I first stated, we are all the same. So you run into situations where it don't work. You don't hold that against anyone. You don't fault yourself, but you don't fault no one else for it. It just didn't work. So you try something new. If that don't work, you try something new. One of the biggest struggles we have now in Mississippi is getting our product in the local school systems. And these school systems are designed in such a way, I think, they don't want local produce in the system. You got to go through the school board. Got to go through the superintendent. The dietitians in the school don't want to do it because you're going to add more work to what they're doing. And most of these schools, they don't do much cooking in no way. It's cooked somewhere, it's brought on. I said that to say that's one of the challenges we face. And racism is a huge part of that because the state of Mississippi is on a one purchasing block. You got 104 school districts. They all buy as one. So if you just want to single out one in the Delta that's 99% African American, you can't do it.
So that takes you to your role on commissions and boards and politics, because you got to change structures and policy as well as these one-on-one relationships. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you've been successfully able to change some of those things.
Well, we tried to change the bill in the state house this year to change that whole structure with the school. Also, we had some movement to change the laws as it relates to cooperative in the state of Mississippi. They passed the House, they passed the Senate, but our new governor have another committee that has got to get through. We didn't get through that committee, but we're going back again. In the state of Mississippi, there's only one that I know of, slaughterhouse where farmers can bring their animals and be slaughtered and then get USDA stamp where you can sell in the farmer's market. This facility is up for sale. We tried to get the state legislature, this is our second year, to put up $600,000 to buy this facility, where these farmers will have somewhere to process the animal. Again, we get everything approved. You know how you get approved but no appropriation? So it's just this constant battle of survival of small farmers. And these days, it's getting even more, not necessarily just race, it's the small versus the big. And the rules and regulations that I have to farm under now as a small farmer is the same as a big farm in Salinas, California. I got to have the same three best practice, good food handling, hazard certificate on my farm. I think that's not fair. You know, I don't ship all over the country, and what I grow, if the customer in Crescent City Farm Market, if they eat it and get sick, they'll see me next Tuesday. They can point me out and say, you sold me a bad watermelon. And what I said, if I did, I'm gonna give you 2 and your money back.
Yeah. So for slow food and for this movement as a whole, while we may be divided up, race and class and these other socially constructed identities that are interfering with our cooperation, our common cause and common need is the same thing. And in the fight to make those changes in Mississippi and any other place, there's a handful of folks with power that use these other divisions to keep getting elected and to keep us squashed. And if that analysis is correct, and I think our time may be running slow, running out, thinking about this organization and its power, its relationships, its connections, its visions, its values, and these realities that we're facing in the radical side of trying to make things better for all, what wisdom, advice, ideas, what would you say to the organization? If they could listen to you and do what you say, what might you say to them?
I would say go back home and continue what you're already doing. Let's build up on the past and looking toward the future. I think the slow food movement, I'm a part of Viva Campesino, which is a worldwide movement of peasantry farmers. 100 million members, wow, we say we have. And I've been fortunate again, I serve on the Food Sovereign Commission of National Viva Campesino, and the last time we met was in Spain, in the Canary Islands. And I had the opportunity to visit with those farmers there and had the relationship. I didn't know where we was at, you could stand and see Africa, how close that was there. But they have this whole problem there of people trying to sneak in to Spain. And I'm saying it shouldn't be that way, you know. We should have the freedom to move, the freedom to work together, the freedom to create a local economy, not just on food, but a sustainable economy. And when you look at that, you're talking about energy, you're talking about the food, you're talking about jobs, you're talking about education. One of our co-op members put solar panels on his house and farm. And he creating so much energy that his energy was going to Mississippi Power. But the law in Mississippi said Mississippi Power ain't gonna pay you for that energy. But they done come put a new meter on his plate. You know, so he subsidized Mississippi Power. Look like if we all had solar panels, then we could, you know, we wouldn't have to pay Mississippi Power every month. I got 2 irrigation wells, and whether I turn them on or not, it's gonna cost me $100 a month if I never turn it on. Or if they put that meter there. But all I'm saying, we gotta look at an area, and Rich is good for saying that when you look at an area such as New Orleans, that's a little bit of Mississippi, it's a little bit of Alabama, and a little bit of Texas make up this region. If you look at the food shed region, I would say. So you look at it from that standpoint that this whole region could work together, cross racial lines, cross status lines. You have the rich, the middle class, the poor. We could all work together. And that means the poor got to give up a little something, and the rich got to give up a big something. And the middle class got to help both ways. And that's how you change the whole system. And I think it's a big, big movement now because of the work that you all have done. And I had fortune to speak out in California the other week. And I said, ideas that's real big and doing well in other parts of the country, when it reached Mississippi, I know he'd have made a change. So when Slow Food have a chapter, it might have a chapter in Mississippi. And when we have people that's really concerned about the environment, global warming, some say it's not for real, but I've been interviewed by the University of Florida climate, southeastern climate or something. They want to know how it was when I first started farming, how is it now that I'm farming. So they're doing a whole lot of research on the effect of the climate. All of that have to come together to hold for it to really work. It can't be just Slow Food here doing what they want to do. Viva Cappuccino over here doing something else. And we all doing the same thing. But somehow or another we ain't made the connection. And with this new technology, and my daughter got me one of these iPhone 5. You know, I got it here and I'm just amazed. I can just say, find Slow Food chapter in New York. Beep, beep. I don't even have to put it, I can talk to it. That type of technology have to be used in the work that we're doing.
Well, I want to thank you, Ben. I'm looking at Slow Food International, all the places that you have been from Petal, Mississippi, around the world, connecting and so forth. And I'm looking at how we look at global things, and then I'm looking at the local piece. Like there's a report called Place Matters, and it's about zip codes. And there's a building in New Orleans that has 2 zip codes because the house is on a corner that actually, the building has 2 zip codes. One zip code is the Garden District, and people live there to be 80 years old. The other zip code is Central City, and they live to be 60 years old. Another zip code, they live to be 85, and another zip code, they live to be 56. And those are the deserts where they don't get the fresh food, you don't have the affordability, you don't have the thing. And it's like the world in microcosm in a neighborhood.
That's it.
And so everything you're doing from the world scale to the local scale, slow food intersects with the environment, with the air, with food, with culture, with enjoyment, with all of these things. And you kind of personify all of those kinds of connections.
I agree with you. It's all connected. Again, on my farm, at this very moment, I have a 2-acre demonstration, research demonstration with Auburn University, Mississippi State University, Alcorn University on what type of crops that we can grow on farm that would pull the carbon out of the air. And we grow these crops and we put them in the ground. This is my 5th year doing this research. But I try to explain to them that they're going about it the wrong way. So they want me to plant these crops, spray Roundup Ready. Plus, and it got to the weed that been escaping on there come a month or so ago, Roundup Ready Plus on this research plot. To me, that's defeating the whole purpose. If you're going to use these type of chemicals, the research, you're not including the air quality and water, what the whole research was about. So we have to change that whole thing in these land grant schools. I'm trying to impress them. I noticed they wanted the worst field on my farm with weeds and things. I said, I can do what you all doing without the chemical. Just let Mother Nature grow the natural and plant the corn and you.
They would make no money that way.
I won't do that. But I said that the importance of education, what I'm getting to, is a very important thing. Formal education, transfer of knowledge. Someone told me I have a lot of stuff in my head and I need to be writing it down, but somebody else gonna have to write it down. That you can pass on to the next generation. How to farm without the use of chemicals. You know, we've been farming like that when I went back home from college, I brought the first 5-gallon can of Treflan to my father for to control weeds and grass. I was taught that at the Land Grant Institution, that this is the way of the future. But 20 years later, I figured out that wasn't the way of the future. So that would make me, once you get on that chemical treadmill, it's hard to get off. You know, even now, the Roundup Ready soybean, the Roundup Ready cotton, soybean, corn, the weeds are coming through now. Even after you spray the, we got what you call a red root ragweed, pigweed. It's resistance. So you got to go back and reformulate. You got to make it a little stronger. So you can't continue that. It's not sustainable. But the whole thing of how we merge all this together, I think education is a very important part of that.
Do you have any last words to this august organization to close out this interview?
I thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to be here. I admire the work you all are doing, and I would like to become a member in a chapter in the state of Mississippi. Thank you all.
That is a really tough act to follow. I will do my best. You know, just really holding true to that idea of connecting food, farming, family, and community to, you know, really changing the way that we want to live in this world. And my name is Devon Sage. I'm the Associate Director of Network Engagement at Slow Food USA. So as folks from New Orleans to Italy may know, I am not normally a mic and PowerPoint gal. Usually my voice can carry all the way through the back, but I really wanted to make sure that we could display the bright spots, our chapters here today. So first things first, I would really love for everyone here to give a round of applause to those new chapters who have joined us in the last year. I mean, really, like the work that every chapter is doing, creating those innovations, creating those connections, and really building community is the core of our work. And so my job here today is to really shine a spotlight on the driving force of slow food in the United States. With an eye towards convening and really making sure that chapters and leaders and national are connecting and really learning those best practices. This is since September, since our meeting in Louisville last year. We've had convenings all across the United States. In the Southeast, we brought together 3 different regions together, in addition to Paolo and Elisa from International. California is really working on an initiative on how we can all work together statewide. The Northeast, what are our best practices as leaders in this region? Rocky Mountain, where they had an opportunity to host Carlo and to do work with Slow Money. The Pacific Northwest, talking about the work that's happening in those chapters. And New England, like coming together in a snowstorm to really get to meet each other and say, hey, this is the work that we're doing, and we're really excited to do it together. So we have Slow Food Temecula Valley. The work that they're doing is using gardening, cooking, and taste education to engage handicapped and disabled and high-risk youth around good, clean, and fair food. I mean, that's amazing work where you're connecting the work that's happening in the soil to the work that's happening in the classroom. Slow Food Chicago. Right now, their Preserve Garden partnership is entering its 4th growing season. And this is working in partnership with 3 other community organizations to provide fresh produce for neighbors, for volunteers, and for the community. Slow Food Central Valley, New Jersey, they lay claim to being the first group to actually start winter green markets in this region. And they've been doing that for the last 8 years. And one of our newest campus chapters, Slow Food New School, is connecting with students around education and around a shared meal to do that kind of education in one of the fastest cities in the United States, New York City. How do we slow that down on a campus level? And Slow Food Charlotte, the work that they did co-creating the Friendship Gardens is a network of 35 gardens that provides produce to the city's Meals on Wheels program. Really amazing. Like, how do you build those networks? They're doing it. And Slow Food Maui, I really wish I were there. Through taste education, they honor the growers and producers using part of the funds that they raise at those events towards community giving programs, so doing that grassroots philanthropy. And Slow Food Madison, in partnership with the Madison Caribbean Association and the Goodman Community Center, they cook up fresh meals directly from the food that's available that day in the pantry. So really figuring out how do we do fresh, delicious, healthy food with the resources that we have. And those are just some of the highlights. I mean, really, this is a fraction of the work that each and every one of you are doing out there in the community. So I'd like to actually end this by having everyone just give yourselves a round of applause for the work that you're doing. And next up, we have brunch, which I know they are setting up right now. And I want to check in with Jenny. It's going to be right behind this wall. So they're going to actually be spreading this for us, and we're having a really delicious gumbo brunch. And I know folks are probably hungry and ready to hit the bathroom. So now is your time to make that happen. Again, thank you.